Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started in just a minute. We ask you to be muted as you enter. It is up to you if you would like to be on screen or not. But thank you for coming today. Just wait one more second. And I'm going to pin Molly to the screen. Okay, I will let folks in as they arrive. Molly, I'm going to pin you and you can go. We do have captions enabled before Molly starts speaking, so you can enable them at the bottom of your screen should you wish to. And go, Molly.
And just as a reminder, we are recording today's session. So if you would like to not be in that recording, you can go ahead and turn your camera off. And if you are someone who doesn't like to take a lot of notes and likes to just sort of like hang out and be in the moment, then you'll be able to refer back to the recording later in order to pick up on things you might have missed. My name is Molly Kearney. I'm the Executive Director of Art Possible Ohio. The woman who was just speaking to you is Megan Feit. She is our Director of Programs. I am a middle-aged white woman with shoulder-length brown curly hair, and I am sitting in my office with some books behind me. I want to welcome all of you today to our workshop on finances and what to do with your finances if you are someone who receives a grant from your art making or revenue from your art making, as well as Social Security, and how to sort of balance all of that. This is a question we get a lot at Art Possible Ohio because we work with a lot of artists and artists who have a lot of different income streams. Artists always have to have that hustle happening in order to make sure that they're getting their work out there and getting paid for it. And while Megan and I are not professional financial advisors when it comes to things like that, we do like to tap into our resources around Ohio, like the wonderful Darenda Geer, who has joined us today. She is an all things guru on how to work with those funds. When you're getting independent contractor money, maybe you're getting Social Security, maybe you've got a grant and you're like, what do I do? How do I file in such a way to keep myself covered and safe? Before we kick off, I also want to thank the Ohio Arts Council, who is a generous funder of all things that we do with our artists, the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and the Ohio Department of Education. There are three major funders. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Darenda and let her go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Molly and Megan. I appreciate it. I'm very honored to be here. I currently, well, first of all, let me go back. I am an old white woman and I have brownish blonde hair. And I'm sitting in my home office and it's blurry in the background so nobody can see what is in the background. And I do have a blue flowered dress on and I wear glasses. And I have worked for Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities for about 7 years as a certified work incentive practitioner. And basically what that means is I deal with both types of Social Security disability benefits and anything that can affect those benefits, healthcare, housing, food stamps, you name it. So one of my coworkers, I believe, had recommended to Megan that maybe I might be able to help out in this area. So I will go ahead and start. I would like to ask if you could, we don't have that many people online, which is fine. If you have a question, you can go ahead and interrupt me. I don't mind. Or just save it till the end. I'll be glad to answer anything that you have now or even afterwards. If I need to have somebody share the screen with me and we'll get started. And do please stop me if I'm going too fast for you.
You should still be able to share your screen. Are you not able? The little green arrow?
I don't see it. Oh, there we go. Right. Can you see? Do you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the chat box. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of information in this presentation. don't try to be the expert. That's my role. Just be aware of options that are out there and know that you do have the hard document or the electronic document that you can refer to. I don't hit every single person's situation because everyone is different. And this particular presentation only revolves around those who receive Supplemental Security Income, SSI, and Medicaid benefits. I did not go into SSDI in this one because the rules are so, they're different and I didn't want to get it too confused, but I'd be happy to do that at a later date. Well, oh, there we go. All right, so the agenda, we're going to look at types of income, how SSI is affected by income, and I am going to go into detail and show you calculations. Don't get too overwhelmed by them. I just like people to see and not just hear how it works, but also to see how it works if they can. We'll talk about different types of work incentives. These are things that help you keep more of your SSI when you have income, which normally reduces SSI. That's important. And then we'll do some key takeaways, and then I'll have a little quiz at the end, seriously, but it's not a pass-fail one. Okay, this is important information right here. It doesn't matter whether you receive disability benefits or not, but you should know what these things are. So earned income, that's wages you receive as an employee of someone else. Could be, you work at Kroger as a checker. Earnings from self-employment. Many artists are self-employed, and I have worked with many artists who are self-employed. Excuse me? Oh. Earnings from self-employment. It's very, the way it's calculated is different, and that's important to know. Unearned income is income received as neither an employee or self-employed, and specifically an award of any kind. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. Apprenticeships and fellowship grants. These are funds that you receive through a grant process. And as long as those funds are used for tuitions, fees, necessary educational expenses, it never counts as income. Or money received from a Title IV of the Higher Education Act of 1965 or from the Bureau of Indian Affairs does not count as income. And money used to train as an artist as part of your business as a self-employed person does count as part of your earnings. So you can see already there's lots of different types of ways that income is delineated, if you will. Okay, so how is SSI affected by earned income? Remember, earned income is the money you get when you are, your wages, money you get from an employee or self-employed. Earned income from wages, the first $65 of your gross earnings is never counted. And then only 1/2 of the remaining income is counted. And they also subtract, that's they, when I say they, I mean Social Security will subtract $20 from that income. And why am I telling you that? This is how you know how your SSI is going to be affected. So if you come over to the chart, and throughout the presentation, I used earned income period at $500 instead of going at different amounts, just to keep it a little more simple. So let's say you have gross earned income of $500. Subtract $20 for the general income exclusion, $65 for the earned income exclusion, and the remainder is $415. Then remember I said it's divided by half. $207.50 is by half. The full SSI benefit rate this year is $841. So if a person who is receiving Supplemental Security Income has no other income, countable income, they get $841 every month. If they begin receiving income from wages, self-employment grants, and or awards, it's going to reduce their Supplemental Security Income. And this is what this calculation is showing you, how it reduces it. So the 207.50 is then subtracted from the full supplemental security income benefit rate. And the new adjusted SSI amount is $633.50. So that means if you were receiving $841, then you received in a particular month $500. You reported that to Social Security. When they did the calculation, they're reducing your SSI in the future, and I'll explain that in a minute, from $841 to $633. That scares people. When they hear that their SSI is being reduced, it frightens them a little bit. But you shouldn't be frightened, because no matter what, you always have more money when working than not. And to show you that, 633 reduced SSI plus the 500 from your gross income. Now your total financial outcome is $1,133 instead of $841. So you've gained money, even though there's going to be taxes taken out of that total financial income, you still are gaining income. I can't see everyone on here, but I'm assuming somebody receives supplemental security income. And if not, it's very important to understand the income you earn in a month. For example, January reduces your SSI benefit 2 months down the road. So when you earn something in January, you won't see your SSI benefit reduced until March. That's why it's very, very important when you receive Social Security disability benefits specifically to turn your income in every single month to Social Security, especially with SSI, so it doesn't put you in an overpayment situation, which is very easy to do. Okay, any questions on that one? Okay. Excuse me. Now remember the first slide, we talked about all the different types of income. Unearned income is one of those. An award in particular is an unearned income. So Social Security looks at the gross amount of the unearned income. You get that general $20 exclusion when they're determining whether your SSI should be reduced, but you don't get the $65 because it's not earned income. Then they subtract any costs you have to produce the income, art supplies, paper, etc. So again, when you're turning your income into Social Security every month, make sure you turn your expenses in as well, particularly if your income is unearned, as in awards, a combination of unearned and earned, or if it's self-employment income. And then just real quick, we'll go through this, okay? And I have a note up here. I really can't see it very well because my name's, there we go. Usually unearned income results in a larger reduction of your SSI. And the reason is, and again, I know I'm giving you a ton of information, is that earned income is divided in half after all those reductions. Unearned income is not. So your SSI goes down more when you have unearned income, such as awards. So just real quick, again, $500, subtract the 20, that's $480. I just put in there $100 for cost of supplies. Total countable income is $380. You subtract that from the full SSI benefit rate of $841 this year. Your adjusted SSI is $461. Add that to your unearned income amount, and your financial outcome is $961. Now notice, let me see if I can go back one. I don't think so. Okay. I cannot. Well, I apologize. The other chart, the first chart where I did this calculation, the financial outcome was 1,130 some, I believe. So you had a lot more income with income from wages and potentially self-employment than you do from just income from awards. There we go. Now, how is SSI effective from income from self-employment? This one is really tricky. And as I said, many artists, their income is from self-employment. So Social Security, when they are calculating countable income, they use your net earnings from self-employment, otherwise called NESE. Your business expenses are deducted from those earnings, and business expenses can be quite high. And that's typically a good thing when filing taxes. And it's a good thing when determining what your reduced SSI is going to be. You know, example of a business expense is your supplies, your materials, your machinery, or wages that you pay to someone else to help you in your job. Now, one thing I want you to remember here is when you file your taxes and you're self-employed, business expenses are listed on Schedule C of your tax filing form. It then calculates, because most tax financials, financiers, I should say, do your taxes for the year online is what I'm trying to say. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Apparently I'm touching things I shouldn't be touching. I'm not trying to make you dizzy. But anyway, business expenses are listed on Schedule C, and then it calculates your net earnings for self-employment on the Schedule SE. What's really important to know is if you're self-employed and you are receiving Social Security disability benefits, either SSDI or SSI, talk to Social Security and ask them the best way to report your wages. Should you wait and do it at the end of the year by turning in your tax forms, or should you give them that information every single month to potentially avoid an overpayment? And I will tell you, Social Security can be difficult to work with, but they can also be very good to work with if you keep an open communication. Okay, this is important, really important stuff. Work incentives. And the reason I dwell on work incentives is often individuals who receive disability benefits are not told about work incentives by Social Security or anyone else. You just get a letter that says you've been awarded, this is how much you're going to get. Typically, you don't get any other booklet or letter. You hear by word of mouth from friends or whomever that, hey, did you know you can do X? So work incentives, what they do, keep it real simple. They reduce, if applicable, they reduce countable earnings, which allows you to keep more of your SSI, because SSI always reduces with countable income. One of the first ones, and one that's used quite often, is called an impairment-related work expense, or an IRWE for short. What this means is the expense has to be out of your pocket, has to be related to your disability, it has to enable you to work. So it could be assistive technology. It must be paid by you, not reimbursed by any other source, like from a waiver or from another group or agency. It must be paid within the month in which you worked, and the expense has to be reasonable. So some examples of impairment-related work expenses are transportation costs. This is very eye-opening to many people. You know, not everyone can drive. Not everyone can take public transportation. But some people have to take public transportation. So in most situations, those costs are deductible from your countable earnings. Service dogs, as I said before, assistive technology, attendant care, residential modifications, or medical devices. I will also tell you that I have worked with individuals who are both blind and deaf, and they have used that part of their cell phone cost as an impairment-related work expense, because that's how they communicate, or part of their iPad cost, because that's a method of communication that is needed to be able to work. So that's one to very much pay attention to, and I did give Megan some handouts on that as well. Now, another work incentive that may be very good for an artist in particular is a plan to achieve self-success. What this means, it allows a beneficiary to develop a plan with milestones, and it's a little more detailed. You have to work with someone who knows how to develop a pass, or with Social Security who has experts that know how to develop a pass. So let's say, I'll give you a situation. You want to go to Columbus School of Art and Design for a particular 2 or 3 classes. And the only way you can do that is to save money to take that course or the courses that you want to take. So you develop this pass with that being your goal. And part of that goal is you have to save $200 a month to be able to get enough money within 18 months to pay for the class or classes you want to take. Once that pass is approved and you present your income to Social Security every month, that money that you are setting aside to reach your goal is deducted from your countable earnings, which reduces your earnings and increases your SSI. So this is a very, very good one to have. It's just a little more detailed. I do know I can do them, but I don't because of time. But I do know people at Social Security and outside of Social Security who are very well educated in it and can help you if you're interested. Also, by having a pass, and if a person only receives SSI, it could be that they become eligible for SSDI or vice versa, because they're putting away so much of their money that they need more money for living expenses. So they're now eligible for one of the other Social Security benefits. And I'll show you some calculations on that in a minute. This one is very good because it's probably one of the best work incentives that is out there for those who are unfortunately through Social Security defined as being blind, even though you don't have to be fully blind to meet that definition. So it's called a blind work expense. And what Social Security does is when you turn in your pay stubs and your expenses for the month, they don't count much of what you have spent or received that has helped you to work. And the work-related expenses, unlike impairment-related work expenses, they don't have to be related to your disability or your blindness, but they must be reasonable. So I have some examples here. Examples are guide dog expenses. We know that can be very costly, and that can be a routine expense every month. Food, shelter, veterinary expense for a guide dog, excuse me. Again, transportation to and from work, dues or fees that maybe you have to pay to belong to a group, a union, or a license, a modification to a vehicle, work-related training, visual and sensory aids. Most individuals who are disabled by blindness have some type of visual and sensory aids that they use. And the one I have that's very, very important is all federal, state, and local income taxes, as well as Social Security income taxes, are deducted from your countable earnings. Your employer, or even if you're self-employed and you're paying those through an accountant, still have to take it out of your check, but you get credit for it when you turn in your pay stub. And that's a big deal. If you have translation of materials to Braille, medical equipment, or supplies that help you work, attendant care services that are not covered by waivers, of course. And this is another one, meals consumed during work hours. So if you are having breakfast and lunch, or maybe even dinner, or all three, one or the other, save your receipts and turn those in with your pay stub, and those will be deducted from your countable income, thus allowing you to have more of your SSI, and I mean quite a bit more. And then another example is therapy. Okay, this work incentive is called Student Earned Income Exclusion, and it's awesome, but it is only for those who receive SSI and are under age 22. So basically how it works is if you are going to school full-time, regularly attending school actually, per Social Security definition, which is different than maybe a university or a high school's definition of full-time. If you are going to school and working, you can have up to $2,040 per month of your income not counted each month for a total of $8,230 per year. And how that works is say you made $800 in January and you normally get 841 with your SSI. By applying the student earned income exclusion, and again, if you're going to school and meet the definition of regularly attending school, that whole $800 that you earned doesn't even count. So you're going to get the 800 plus the full 841 SSI. You have no reduction. So for young individuals just starting out, this is very, very good information. And it doesn't have to be a college or a university. It can be a training course that is preparing you for employment as well. Okay, now you all know exactly how your SSI is affected by your income, right? And there's a laughing face on here for a reason, because you're probably rolling your eyes at me and I can't see your faces, so I don't know if you are or not. So what we're gonna, and I'm not hearing any laughing either. Okay, so let's calculate how SSI can be increased using all those work incentives that I just talked about. The first one that we're going to talk about is earned income from wages using ERWI. Remember the first slide I showed you that had a calculation on it was earned income from wages. Now we're going to talk about earned income from wages using impairment related work expense. We're going to use the same earned income, $500. Going to get the same exclusions, the $85. But now you have $100 in impairment related work expenses. And maybe that's transportation. And I will tell you that if someone is taking transportation to and from work on a routine full-time basis, that cost can add up very high during a month. All right. You do all the same calculations that I showed you before, and I won't bore you with that. And you subtract the amount you get from, again, your SSI full benefit rate, and you get your adjusted SSI. Now, if you'll remember, and if I could go back to the chart without messing up my charts, I would. The first chart I showed you, which is chart 4, your SSI was reduced to 633. You weren't using any work incentives. By using or having $100 of approved ERWI, you get an additional $50 in SSI. So it's worth it to use them, especially ERWI. Unearned income from award using PASS. Remember, PASS, I said, is something I think many of you may be able to use if you're just starting out or going through training, or you have goal. A PASS can be used for any work or educational related goal, but it can also be used to buy a home, buy a car, buy a studio, lots of different things. You can be very creative with it. And again, when I told you earlier, just a reminder that you tell Social Security simply, within this PASS, you have to save X amount of money to meet your goal. So for this example, we're saying you have to save 200, or you're going to save 200 to meet your goal. Same example, $500 of unearned income, that's an award. Take the exclusion. Also, the $100 in impairment work-related expenses that we had previously, the $200 PASS plan deduction, your SSI is reduced to 561, but you actually have more money because you count the $300 that the $200 that you're setting aside and the $100 in impairment related work expenses. You had that money to be able to do that. So that counts as income. So it's actually 1061 but $761 on paper. And I hope that makes sense. And this one is blind work expense. Just had to put one more calculation in there. I hope you're all awake out there. So as I said before, there are many deductions that can be taken for the blind work expense. If a person does meet the definition of blindness, Social Security's definition of blindness, it's much better to use blind work expense than impairment related work expense, as we talked about before. There are many more things within the blind work expense work incentive that are deducted from your accountable income than for IRWI. You do have to track and report your expenses monthly, as I said, and you must be under 65 or 65 and older receiving SSI because of the blindness. So we'll go over here, and show the gross earned income of $500, your exclusions, divide it in half. Let's say you had $300 of blind work expenses. That's taxes, meals, transportation for the whole month. Your full benefit rate is $841. Your SSI is not going to reduce at all. So you're going to have the $841 SSI plus the $500 gross earned income for a total of actually $1,341, but you had that $300 that you expended in IRWI and that actually they took out for taxes and whatever else they might take it out of your paycheck. Seems like they take a bazillion things out every payday. Bottom line is you are way better off in using this work incentive. And again, these work incentives, they're not explained, they're not communicated. If after we finish this and talk, if any of you have heard of them before, I'll be surprised. And I hope you have. That would make me feel better. Okay, Medicaid. This is probably the most important thing that many people want to understand. I'm not so worried about losing my cash disability benefit as I am about my health insurance. Health insurance is hard to get. Self-employed people, it's hard to get. Even if you're employed, you almost have to be working full time to get offered health insurance, and then it's costly. And marketplace insurance is costly and it's not good. So one really important thing to remember, as long as you receive $1 in SSI benefits, your Medicaid continues, no problem whatsoever. And if your SSI stops because of your earnings being too high and you still need healthcare coverage and remain disabled, which probably will be the case, it's JFS Medicaid's responsibility to automatically enroll you in Medicaid 1619B. In that program, you can make this year up to nearly $40,000 and still be in Medicaid. That's good to know. And I've worked with many people who the automatic change from regular Medicaid to 1619B didn't occur. So if that doesn't occur, you have to ask that question. Why didn't you put me in 1619B? Because you are absolutely entitled to it. After 1619B, or if you were not receiving SSI benefits, you were getting SSDI benefits, or even if you never received any disability benefits, but you are disabled, there's another Medicaid program called Medicaid Buy-in for workers with disabilities, which is a very good option for healthcare as well. You must meet Social Security's definition of being disabled, and you have to be employed. If you are enrolled in this and you become unemployed, it will continue to cover you for 6 months. So these are just, the takeaway from that is, remember, you have healthcare options. Make money. There's options for you. Okay, some key takeaways. Over to the right of this chart, I have two little boxes. And in the top box, it says the information in this presentation is for SSI beneficiaries only. SSDI rules are different. I can answer SSDI questions if you have any. what we just talked about, Medicaid. If you receive SSI and or Medicaid, you cannot have more than $2,000 in combined resources at the first day of any month, unless your funds are in part in stable or special needs trust. And that's really, really important. I have had several cases in the last year where people got into overpayment situations because JFS went out and found that because of various reasons, their checking or savings account was over $2,000 on day one of a particular month. Now, for the most part, a lot of that was due to pandemic benefits. So those overpayments got waived. But I've had a lot of people say, I didn't hear that. I didn't know that. Please make sure you're aware of that. That's a big deal. Okay, so then on the left side, let's talk about key takeaways. Earned income reduces SSI, but you always have more disposable income when working, and don't let anyone tell you you don't. Unearned income, such as receiving an award, a cash award, reduces SSI more than earned income, but you still have more disposable income. Please use work incentives when eligible. And if you don't understand them, find somebody who can give you that education. And I'm happy to take questions or phone calls or emails from people in the future. I'm very, very adamant that we need to get this information out to people better than it's done now. Remember that income from self-employment is calculated differently than wages. Definitely contact Social Security before you start making money as a self-employed person, or talk to a reputable tax consultant that understands how disability benefits are affected by income. Remember that typically grants and apprenticeship funds are not income and should not affect your benefit. And again, you have options for continued health care with Medicaid if your SSI stops due to earnings. All right, let's play a game. Let's see what you remember. And please unmute yourself and yell out the answer, okay? They're easy. Okay, will earned income reduce SSI? Anybody?
Yes.
Correct. What type of income is a cash award? Remember there's
Unearned income?
Yep, absolutely. Unearned. Very good. If SSI stops, will you lose Medicaid?
You shouldn't.
No, should not. That's absolutely right. Now, will you get a letter from Medicaid saying they're going to stop it? Oh, yeah, you very well could. That's when you need to make a phone call or get an advocate to talk to them and say, yeah, you need to make sure that they're not eligible for 1619B. It is in the Ohio Administrative Code, that's law, that it is JFS's responsibility that if an individual becomes ineligible for any type of Medicaid, that they look at all other options before they stop the health care. That's a law. Okay, is a grant considered income?
Unearned income.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said unearned income.
No, most of the time, as long as the money is spent a particular way, you're right. It's unearned, but they don't even count it. It's not even counted to reduce your SSI. So that's a good thing, a very good thing. All right, see, that was pretty easy. If I was in person, I'd throw out candy bars or something. All right, you are almost awesome. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm going to go ahead and put this thing down so I can see people.
Darenda, there's a few questions in the chat if you're able to access the chat.
Okay, let me go to the chat. Well, I sure hope I didn't too much. Okay, and Hello, waiting room. I missed the first few seconds. Okay, transportation costs. Would fares for public paratransit be an Irway? I'm in the St. Louis, Missouri area where there is a paratransit arm of the public transit provider. Paratransit provides individually scheduled rides curb to curb for riders who cannot safely use the regular bus light rail system, which we have in Columbus, Ohio as well. And yes, because you cannot ride normal transportation or transport yourself, then yes, that expense. I think in Columbus, Ohio, they buy like a month pass for that. So that cost, whatever it is, if it's per ride or per monthly pass, the bottom line is yes, that would be an impairment related work expense for sure. And then another question, does the asset test still apply to Medicaid 1619B as it does to regular Medicaid and SSI? Good question. Yes, it does. But if you're in Medicaid for buy-in with workers, but Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities, that has a higher asset level. It is $13,333 this year and increases every year. Okay, any more? How can I make this big so I can see everybody? Wow, I either gave you so much information that you're just mesmerized or not. Okay, I can see people there. All right. Don't be afraid to ask, but I do want to put out there. Actually, Molly and Meg and I were talking before we started. Everybody's situation's different, and maybe I didn't cover an income or that falls into a category I should have. But if you've got something out there that you don't quite understand how it fits, I am not an attorney. I am not a tax accountant, but I've been doing this for a really long time. And I can help guide you. If I don't know the answer, I have access to a lot of tax and attorneys that I can find those answers for you. Please reach out to me anytime. My contact info is on those handouts that Megan put out there. Because sometimes, you sit back and you think, oh, wow, I wish I would have asked this. Yes, it's a lot of info, but very beneficial. It is. Benefits, taxes, all of it. It's so complicated. Medicaid, Medicare. You just have to. If I didn't do it every single day and had not done it for a long time, I just amazes me the amount of information that's in there. And people have to have advocates to navigate through the system. My main goal is to make sure you're aware, hey, she said something. Maybe I ought to look at that, or maybe I ought to ask a question. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so what if you, my daughter receives SSI and Social Security. So what if her money goes straight into her account, and because I'm looking to set up a trust fund for her.
Okay.
So does the dynamics of everything that you said changes if that money goes into the trust fund?
It's different because, so first of all, I'm going to ask a few questions, make sure I give you the right guidance. Is your child a minor?
No, she's an adult.
She's an adult. Okay. And you're going to set up a special needs trust, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So there's multiple special needs trusts out there. Make sure when you do that, that you go to someone who's extremely educated in disability benefits and how they're affected by income before and after death, and that they communicate Medicaid estate recovery. So
Okay.
the money that's put into a special needs trust and the money that is put into a stable account is not counted as an asset or a resource for SSI or for Medicaid purposes.
Mhm.
Okay. The only thing that, and trusts are awesome. They're awesome. So stable. I'm a huge proponent of stable account. But in the state of Ohio, Ohio is a Medicaid estate recovery state. That means at a certain age, 55 and over, depending on the situation of the person who received Medicaid services, when they pass, after their estate is settled, before money goes to heirs, the state of Ohio Medicaid has the right to come in and say, hey, we'd like to have some of our money back. And that's a huge, huge problem in the state of Ohio, that it does not get communicated. And people get just hit upside the head. You know, I'll give you an example. I have a friend whose brother was in a Pickering house in Lancaster, hospice, and was not going to come home, was dying from cancer. But a social worker came in and asked him, you know, what his goals were. And he said his goals were, when he got home, he'd like to have one of those chair lifts that would take him up to the second floor easily. So she enrolled him in a specialized recovery services Medicaid waiver. He died 2 months later. And then his estate got a letter saying they owed almost $4,000 for 2 months worth of premiums. And he never even utilized those things, and he didn't even need it. Trusts are the same. There's only 2 trusts that I'm aware of that get, how do I want to say, overlook kind of the Medicaid estate recovery. So just make sure that when you're talking with someone and you set that up, that you fully understand that trust and how it works and how it's going to work after your child passes, when you're not here to make sure. Does that answer it, Alicia? I think that's when I asked the question. Okay, someone
Yes,
said,
yeah, there we go. Yes, that did answer the question. Yes, I've been trying to find an attorney. I was directed into doing a third-party trust for her.
a third party.
Because of those reasons that what you said, but
Yep.
I just don't know of a good attorney. Nobody's been able to tell me of a good attorney to get that set up.
So where are you from?
Akron.
Akron. So I don't recommend attorneys to anybody, but I have a list, but they're Fairfield County attorneys. And I developed this list from the families that I work with. You know, they've said, hey, I'll use this person or I use that person. So I don't know. I'm assuming they're all very good. I would be more than happy to share that with you, but I don't know in Akron. I would say, I wonder if you called, I'm trying to think. I know I do a lot of work, and I do work all over all 88 counties. So I work with Akron OFD. I might be able to get someone to throw a list of names out if you want to shoot me an email to remind me.
I sure will. I did look online, just looking up attorneys that did that here, and just kind of went by, you know how they do like the reviews or whatever. People So I did kind of do that, but still, you never know, because what's good to one person might not be good to another.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, everybody's different, and you know, somebody might have basketball, some might not have basketball. But what you said earlier, when you said third party, wholly undiscretionary trust, you were right on with that, because that is one of those trusts that can alleviate Medicaid estate recovery if done correctly. So you're doing your due diligence. Yes,
I started looking into it. I'm a social worker, so that's I think one of my patients, when I was doing home care, actually told me about it.
Oh, great, good. That's good to know. Good information.
So yeah.
All right. Just shoot me an email and I'll see if I can get a contact in Akron to give me some names.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Somebody needs to mute because we're getting a lot of background noise. There we go. Okay, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm your out of state person. So I'm here for the federal things. And this might be more of a, can you point me to a resource type of question? Because I feel like it would take a big chunk of time to dive into that might not be relevant to everybody on the call.
Okay.
So a good friend of mine has year-round earned income that stays below the SGA
Mhm.
limit. However, he also has seasonal earned income from performing.
Oh,
And
well,
he is why I am on this call.
okay.
Because I think we ran into some difficulty with his SSDI because of
The
the seasonal income, which is November, December, predominantly December,
Mhm.
messing with January, February. So I wonder if there are any resources or any sort of what to do about
Yeah. So
guides for seasonal income and its impact on SSDI.
yeah, so there's a name for that. It's called oh gosh, and I had it right in my head when you first started talking. It's like non-recurring income. And basically what Social Security can do is they can spread that out throughout the whole year, to minimize it. So here's what I want you to do. Send me an email
Okay.
and then I'll point you to the program operating manual for Social Security that explains how that works.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. It's a good question. Wow, good. I like that. I like them. I would rather people ask me a million questions than ask nothing. So this was good. I love this person down here, this picture. This is Dawn. Your picture is cute.
Yeah, Dawn actually asked, this is more for like a logistics question. Where is the video going to be after we're all done? And so for people who maybe weren't following the chat, we are going to post it to our Art Possible Ohio YouTube channel, and we're going to put it on our website. And then we're also, for anyone that registered for the webinar, we'll send the link out to people who registered. And we'll also include all of the wonderful handouts and a copy of the presentation too. So all of that great information will be coming your way.
Just to reiterate, I do have to send, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Molly.
No, you're fine.
I do have to send you, because I did add a couple of things to the chart, to the presentation after I sent it to Megan. So as soon as this ends, I'll send it to everyone.
And perhaps most importantly, Dorenda's contact information.
Okay, true. It is on there.
Dawn, it looks like your hand is raised. Would you, if you want to ask a question, you can go ahead and unmute and ask.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I came a little bit late, and I apologize. I had a difficulty finding the linky, but I'm a poet, and I just got approved for my SSDI and SSI. Just got my first initial payment.
Congratulations.
This week, and thank you. I've been fighting for it for 5 years, and this is magical. I'm iridescently happy right now.
Good. I'm happy for you.
But my question, a big thank you. I appreciate that. But my big question is, as a poet, I'm going to want to publish, and my concern is with residuals and things like that that aren't predictable. And you may have covered this before, but I apologize if you did, but do you have any advice? Pardon?
It kind of falls in the same category as Jennifer's question. It's money that is not routine, comes in at different times of the year, and can be recurring or non-recurring. So yeah, that can be, Social Security can take that. I'll give you an example without talking in circles. And again, if you send me an email, I'll send you the information. So it does not take a bunch of time up. But I have a couple of individuals who, one is an artist, one has a landscaping business. They do not report their income every month. What they do is they both receive SSDI, is they have an arrangement with Social Security that they turn their tax forms in at the beginning, once they file them at the beginning of the year for the previous year. And then Social Security takes that money and they average it over 12 months. Okay. So that can absolutely be done.
That makes sense.
It doesn't have to
Okay.
be peaks and valleys of income.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That suits me, because I also, readings, I can get paid for readings and things like that. And that's never, you never want to know when that's going to happen. It's just
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But
So-
it's not common income for sure. Plus you also know, I hope, with the SSDI that you have that trial work period. Have you heard about that?
The trial work period?
Mm-hmm. So I'll
Is
keep
that
it
something you
simple, but
addressed before?
I'll explain it more to you when you send me the email.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
So anyone who receives SSDI, they get what's called a 9-month trial work period, that they have 5 years to use those 9 months. The good thing is, during that 9-month trial work period, the individual can earn any amount whatsoever. And it does not stop the SSDI. Can earn $1 million, doesn't matter, $10 million. You're still going to get your SSDI. What gets confusing for people, so you know how Social Security will send a bazillion letters that you don't even know what they're saying. Okay. Well, what's really important is to know whether you're using your trial work period months or not. But Social Security doesn't tell you. They won't send letters to tell you when you're using them, and they won't send a letter to tell you when you're done. So you need to track it, and you need to know how they track it. And basically, every number I throw out changes every year. This year, any month that you earn over $970 gross in a month, you've used a trial work period month. So they're rolling. That's why you can have 5 years to use that 9 months, because maybe in June you earn 300, but maybe in July you earn 1,200. So only June counted, July doesn't count. So
Okay.
definitely you have to be aware of that trial work period, because that is a huge cushion to allow you to make as much as you possibly can, test your ability to work without losing the SSDI. And then when you complete all 9 months, at the end, if you're over what's called substantial gainful activity that Jennifer was talking about earlier, which is another number, your SSDI is subject to stopping, but you get a 3-month grace period. So you have about a year. You have about a year where you can, depending on what you're making every month, you're not going to lose the SSDI.
That's a lot of helpful
Chances are you might not, you may never lose it. It just depends on, what the earnings are and how long it takes to use that trial work period. I have people that never use the trial work period at all. I have people who use part of it but never finished it in 5 years. So therefore they got another 9-month trial work period. I mean, there's so many options out there.
Wow.
Contrary to popular belief, and to some of my friends' belief, because they don't understand how it works, the government doesn't want you to lose your benefits, because they know how difficult it is for some people with impairments to work and to work consistently. So there's all kinds of safety nets to ensure that doesn't happen until you feel comfortable enough. I have people that, I've worked with for 4 and 5 years that, I got a call a couple weeks ago where she said, I'm ready. I've been working really good. I want to go to full time. I feel comfortable. I want to get off my SSDI and move forward. So help me out. So, great. That's awesome.
Comforting. That's
That
really
doesn't happen for everyone.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate all of that, all of the information that you've been presenting, and
Oh,
your
welcome.
comforting way that you've been presenting it is really heartening. And I don't want to speak for everybody else, but I just thank you. Thank
Well,
you from
thank you
me.
very much. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And that's
We-
the main thing that, like I said, I just want you, all of you, to walk away and know there's so many options out there. And maybe you don't fully understand all those options today. Just know they're there and there's somebody you can ask. And again, I will never, if someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer, I'm not giving it, but I'll find somebody who's got it. Okay.
Thank you so, so much.
Oh,
We are at time. That was a wealth of information. It's kind of like learning to speak a new language. And it's very exciting that you are so willing and open to help people and be a translator and sometimes just speak on our behalf.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I mentioned, we are going to send all of that information out. And I imagine we will probably have Darenda come back and do maybe another session where she talks about another little chunk of this information to sort of just help us along our way and figure out how to best manage our money. So thank you guys so much. If you have any additional questions, you can send them either to Megan or myself or directly to Darenda, and we will send out all the information to everyone in the next few days. So have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you all so very much. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate it.
And we
Thank you.
will hopefully hear from all of you soon.
Bye.